So this is going to be a decently long video, bear with, but it's going to be very helpful when coming up with your final typographic quote compositions. You're going to be starting with a new project and decide what size you want to work with. So I'm going to just make it a square, 10 by 10, and upping my resolution to 300, even though this would most likely stay on the internet on my Instagram or something. So now I'm just going to hit create. The other option, of course, would just be to click down here because Photopea gives us the instant templates. So that is also pretty helpful. Alright, so now that I've got my document open, I'm going to plan out my quote. If you don't have your quote already, then here's where you can do a Google search. For those of you who use Pinterest, maybe you have some helpful ones around. This quote, as said in the directions, could be anything from a movie quote to something funny a family member said. Maybe a friend's birthday is coming up and you have a quote that works well for the two of you. Whatever you want to do, but you need to come up with 3 of them. So I've chosen the type button and I'm going to just click and type out my quote. So first things first, I wrote out live a colorful life. There is my text and I'm going to edit it so it's much more interesting. I'm going to press Control or Command A and highlight it all and make it bigger. Then I'm going to adjust it back on my canvas. If it's just a little awkward, then you can make it slightly smaller. I'm going to click here, use my arrow key to go over, then hit return. So that way I can access the word life because it was off the screen. This is a little bit too big, but I'm not going to worry about that yet because I'm going to choose a font that looks a little bit nicer than this default one. So again, Command A, Control A to select all and choose your font. Before doing this, if you haven't ever downloaded a font, then I have another video tutorial on how to download fonts. Once you download a font that you really like, you can actually find it by searching the name. Caviar Dreams is one that I use a lot of, and it's actually the one I use in all of my examples. I just love how simple and clean it is, and you can make it bold and make it a little thicker if you so desire. My life here, I notice, is out of alignment, so I'm going to just delete, and that is because there was a space after colorful and before life, so it's showing that space there. But since it's on a new line now, I don't want that space because you want to have that alignment when you're creating your text. Alright, so this again is just a little bit big, but I think just using one font in this is very boring anyway. So what I'm going to do is change colorful to be a scripty font, and then I think a text overlay on the word colorful would be a really nice idea. So what I'm going to do is actually delete the word colorful from this and make it in a new layer. So back to the text box, click somewhere else. If I click too close to this, I will actually edit the layer. You can see how the cursor changes. From here, the little edit kind of type, which would bring us to the line, or if I click anywhere else, it will turn into the arrow. So make sure you have an arrow before you click, and then I'm going to type colorful. This is where you want to choose a contrasting font so that your word sticks out. In order to use a font that you downloaded, you need to hit the Load Font button. Then you would go to your Downloads folder and click on the TTF file or OTF file that was downloaded from dafont.com. You're just going to hit OK. And it should be in the program. You don't have to download a font to use because Photopea has a ton within their book. But if you want to, use a font that you really like and Photopea doesn't have it, then you can just download and load, and then you can insert within. What I'm going to do now is show you how to use Photopea's font book to narrow down your search. All you have to do is uncheck the categories you do not want to see. So if you're looking for a script or handwritten font like I am, I'm unchecking all of the stencil, serif, slab serif, sans serif, all of those different fonts that would not be a script, calligraphy, style writing. So whatever font you're looking for, uncheck the ones that do not fit that category, and that way the program will narrow down its giant font book for you. For a review on different types of font names and categories, please check out the typography slideshow linked within the Google Classroom. Finding the correct fonts should honestly take you the longest of this project. Once you've found the right font, you want to change the size so it fits well with the other text you've already selected. Once you have your text chosen, you're going to play with the arrangement. My life is kind of hidden by colorful right now, so what I'm actually going to do is create a new layer for the word life. So I'm just going to click, delete. This is Caviar Dreams bold, so I'm going to make a new type layer and make sure it matches. It did go back to that file font size, so I don't have to re-choose. Now I'm going to play with the arrangement of my text so that it fits well together and is in the middle of my canvas. I'm going to make colorful a little bit bigger so that it fills left to right. You always want to leave some border around. So about a ½ inch is a good rule of thumb. Now I'm going to move my other words around. And by doing this, it lines up perfectly. The L fits in the middle of the E and the A, and it just creates a nice unified effect. And then I'm going to grab life and bring it on up over here, nice and close. But I want to look at my line spacing. This is about a cursor height. This is not. So now I want to drag that back down to about a cursor height. A helpful tip for aligning your text is to go to View, Show, Guides. They're called Smart Guides in Photoshop. These are little purple lines that pop up and help align your text. However, when I'm screen recording, it competes with the program and they don't like to pop up. But when I'm working on my computer and I'm not screencasting, they work just fine. So hopefully they're working fine for you at home. What you can do is go to our materials section and you'll notice the different designs that I have already uploaded for you. I'm going to try a watercolor one just to see if there's any that are colorful enough for my liking. If I don't like any of these, I could always go to unsplash.com and find a different image. I'm not really liking any of these. I'm going to try the dots just to see, but then I'm going to go ahead and search for a different image. Don't settle on the first one. Try some different textures and see what works best. If you see one you like, then double click it and click the download arrow in the top right corner. It will go into your downloads folder, which then you'll go back to Photopea and open it up through there. Before I get too far, I'm going to do a safe save just in case. You always want to do your save as PSD. Photoshop document saves those layers. It just goes into my downloads. Now I'm going to go to File, Place, Open and Place. It's just place in Photoshop, but in Photopea it's open and place. So you're opening the image and placing it in the document. Find the image file wherever it downloaded to and double click. Then you're going to drag that layer up above the text you want to overlay. So in my instance, it's right above the word colorful. Then you're going to hit Option and click on the dots layer, and you'll see that it fills the text with the pattern. This is actually the easier way to do it rather than defining your pattern. There's always two ways to complete an action. What I'm noticing is that the color is not very bright, so I'm going to do some adjustment layers to increase some contrast and saturation to see if the colors will end up working how I like. Even if you use an image, you can always make adjustments so it's better for you. So I'm just playing with the hue, saturation, and lightness, seeing if it helps the effect. If it ends up not working, then try a new effect. Previously, I was manipulating the dot pattern, but now I want to edit the text. So make sure you select the word colorful, or whatever your text is, before you try the next effect. I'm playing with a drop shadow to see if that creates more contrast from the pattern and the background. All I'm doing is manipulating the bars and seeing what it does. So I've moved the pop-up window to the right so I could better see the live preview of the text effect. I'm changing the distance of the shadow, the spread makes it blurrier, the size is also how big the cast shadow is. The angle of the shadow is manipulated by the circle. Wherever the line is facing is your light source. So the sun is up in that top left corner of mine, so the shadow is cast on the bottom right. The opacity is how dark your shadow is. So again, manipulate all of them and see whatever works best for you. I particularly don't end up liking this effect, so I'm going to just delete it and go find a better image from unsplash.com. Remember, don't settle. Even if you just spent the time adjusting it, you may not like it, so go find a better image. I'm just going to type the word rainbow and see what that brings up for me. I happen to love this second image right here, so I'm going to download that. Remember, just click that little download arrow right in the bottom right corner. You can close out of Unsplash, go back to Photopea, and go Open and Place. Find the file that you just downloaded in your Downloads folder and give it some time to load. The hue and saturation adjustment layer from the dots is actually still here. So I'm clicking the eye to see the effect that it's having on the paint clouds here. I actually really like what it's doing for the vibrancy of the colors, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to make sure that my picture layer is above the text layer, and then click Option, press and hold, and click the image, and it will overlay and create a clipping mask on top of your text. Once you have that done, you can edit the effects on your text. So if I double click that little EFF for effects, I can see the drop shadow is still applied. If I don't like it, then I can just simply uncheck the drop shadow box to the left or play again with the opacity and visibility and just edit it to be something that I like for this new pattern. Keep in mind that it's not too late to go back and change the fonts you've selected. Maybe you don't like the way it looks now with the pattern applied. Maybe you want a thicker font. Highlight whichever one you want to change and go through your font book. Once you've made your selection, you can always go back a step, hit Ctrl-Z, use your history panel, and just go back and forth between the two to see which one you like better. Continue this process until you're completely happy with your new typographic quote, and then you're going to save. Please go to File, Export as a PNG, and hit Save. It will download to your computer, and then you can go into your Downloads folder and rename the file. Last name, first initial, underscore, quote 1, quote 2, quote 3.